There. Now it's recording. Yeah, see, that's it.
Because the little numbers are going.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, leave it that way if you want. I don't need to see myself. If you want, you could turn it around. It doesn't really matter. Um, yes, it does work. Now, these things here, Tina, do you want to hand them around? The first, the top 3 pages is so it's each one is 3 pages.
Oh, okay.
And then everyone can have one. I don't know if I can finish that tonight, and then maybe we can sit and meditate after. Okay. Each one is 3 pages. Yeah. And there's some other stuff there. And that's one. And I didn't punch holes in them. You see, I can find lots of resources like this on the internet. And so instead of breaking someone's copyright by photocopying it, I just get these things there. You see? Yeah, that's called the three principal. That's called the 3 principal aspects of the path. And okay, well, there's a lot of stuff underneath which you don't need. And then I'll at the bottom. But yeah, that's it. Page 1, 2, and 3. And now, while you're getting that, I'll tell you a little bit about who wrote it. This was written by Tsongkhapa, a very famous master practitioner in Tibet, who lived, I think, in the 1300s. His dates, I'm not sure if it says it. It's pronounced Tsongkhapa. Here, hand it back to me, and then because there's some things at the bottom that I need. And this was a letter to one of his students. And this is a very, very good a kind of summary of the entire path that I guess I could share with people. Although there is one thing, this doesn't have in it any of the although Tibetans will discuss things like this and learn them as a preliminary, in fact, the main meditation practice that I learned, the main meditative methods are a little bit more complex than what I showed last night, which is more, very simple. They do those things, and they are important, but they also accompany those kinds of practices with a lot of the methods of Tantra are called Vajrayana, the adamantine vehicle, and that system of practice is a lot more complex, and that's mostly what people practice, but they base it on things like this. This establishes kind of a motivation to pursue those things. And we could talk about that after. Some of them are quite involved in doing and do require some kind of basis, like what's discussed here, to have them make sense, because otherwise one could kind of do meditation methods for the wrong reasons, either to maybe, as I said this morning, to apply the law of attraction to kind of get lots of worldly success and manifest your desires from things around you by getting a more powerful mind and becoming one Hindu priest friend complained to me about some swamis who come from India having gold credit cards and lots of students because they have a lot. If someone has a lot of mental power and it is somewhat common, even some wisdom and real realization, there always is the danger that they could misuse that for their own too much, veer off a little bit to the side and try acquire a lot of wealth or make themselves important. But if someone, let's say, approaches spiritual practice in a thoroughgoing way without those kinds of drawbacks or side tangents, anyway, worldly success will accompany them sort of naturally with a calm mind, things seem to spontaneously work. And so then what we'll do is maybe we'll try to go through this today. There's a lot in here, and it might be hard to do, but it might be very useful. And then it's nice that I'm taping it, and then we can see if you want, I can show you briefly how to meditate like we did last night. I'm not sure how many of you were here last night, just you two, Tina. And yes, you came at the end, though.
Yeah, I just came to pick up food.
Yeah, you just came at the end, so everyone else is different. Okay, so that's good. Okay, now let's read this together, and then I'll try and comment on it, because this is actually a very dense poem, but has a whole path in it. And we'll go through what the three principal aspects are. There's three parts to the path of practice. Maybe I'll summarize them. They are renunciation and bodhicitta. Oh, that's a technical Sanskrit word, which is difficult to translate into English literally with conveying its meaning, because the word isn't in the literal meaning. It means the essence of enlightenment, or the enlightenment in mind, but chitta can mean the heart of enlightenment, or the essential, well, many things. Anyway, I'll explain what they are. Renunciation, and finally, a right view, or a right understanding, and that means an outlook. If you have a kind of, well, the word right and wrong isn't meant in the pejorative sense or a judgmental thing, because if someone thinks that they're right and other things are wrong, that's not right. That's not the right view. So then if they have an attachment to a yes or a no, and a right view and a wrong view, that's the wrong view. If that makes some sense to you. That's what's meant about the right view, a right way of seeing. And it's good to look at this. And if you look at this, although right now I'm not practicing, maybe I could have just shown you how to sit and meditate, but maybe this is good too, because with this, then any meditation practice should go in the in a good direction. A direction that will help you, rather than just be used merely as a psychotherapy, or as some kind of way of showing off to friends, or as something just only to relax and only work with that one side, the less profound side, or only for your health, instead of taking it and trying to take it for the full benefit, the full purpose. Because certainly the things that I showed people yesterday, which are very simple, take a minute to show, just paying attention to your breathing. Someone could just do it, practice it just for relaxation, which is done for people who have pain. And that's good, but that's not the whole point of it. That's not the whole point of it. There's much more potential there for, let's say, a benefit for oneself, and then for all the people that you know, because one does it this. Okay, so let's look. Now the first thing, well, that's easy, the promise to compose. The essential meaning of the Victorious One's teaching. No, you don't have to, we don't need to recite it. If you want, you can. But the path praised by all the holy victors and their children, the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation, this I shall try and explain as much as I can. Now, Victorious One is another epithet for a Buddha, and what that means is that they've defeated the enemies of wrongdoing and other such things. That is a constant kind of metaphor that's used in the Buddhist teaching. For instance, an arahat, a person who has attained enlightenment, is the word for it. That's in Sanskrit or Pali, arhat or arahant. It means literally foe destroyer, because the defilements of aversion, attachment and delusion which control us and condition us, then they're like a foe. That someone has won over them. And another way that the translation of bodhisattva, some people have translated it as enlightened warrior. I wonder, I don't know if that's trying to get the sense of it, although maybe it's not 100% right. Maybe that's influenced by that Carlos Castaneda's teaching from the 70s, when he talked about that warriorship, etc. But yeah, it's warring over the self-cherishing. Now, those who are not attached, let's go to the next one. Those who are not attached to the pleasures of circling, of samsara, who strive to make freedom and endowments meaningful, who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones, you fortunate ones, listen with a calm mind. Okay, now the first line has this term, samsara, which was translated as circling. That's actually, I think, the Tibetan, they translate that word samsara as circling, korde, korwa, going round. And there's another word for the beings, the living creatures that have a mind. Sometimes it's translated as sentient beings or beings with sentience. In Tibetan, sometimes the word is beings that go, goers. And where do they go? Well, they go nowhere, but in a circle. What they do is they're like all of us, a hamster in a cage, okay, and then they're on a little wheel, and then they go in a circle. What does that mean? Now, I'm not trying to be like a Christian preacher to preach to you the horridness of worldly existence. No. We'll put it in very simple terms. We have our, they may discuss them here, the triple poisons which are simple: attachment, too much attachment, aversion, and just a dense kind of mind that's in neither. And now, of course, if we have no desire, this doesn't mean we have to become desirelessness. If we have no desire, we couldn't do anything with this stuff. But we have a kind of situation where we're conditioned by our environment and the things that are around us. And going in a circle means, in a way, let's put it this way. There's all these things that we do that of various sorts that are unskillful, harming others, harming ourselves, whatever, having thoughts of anger to other people, stealing, ripping other people off by cheating them in business, or doing various things that are what we normally consider not good. Okay, and everyone says that they aren't. And other things like that. We think that those things make a result. And everything that we do has a result. And we're blown by the winds of that karma. And samsara means that that person doesn't have any freedom to control their fate. They're blown by what's going on around them. And they can't control their karmic circumstances because they don't know how, or their desires may be too strong and they haven't disciplined themselves at any level. Then what they do just blows them everywhere. They're blown by the winds of karma to be reborn again and again, meaning doing the same mistakes over and over again, and they can't get out because it's moving them around, and they have no freedom. That's what samsara is. Rebirth again and again with no control. No control. Like, one, we'll go into what leads to control now. That doesn't mean to be tight, but it would be like if a boat, and you don't control it in some level, then you think that not controlling or not tethering yourself on some level is good, is freedom, but not necessarily, because a boat with no control then we'll just go every way adrift. Doesn't go where you want. There's no freedom. That's the meaning of samsara. And then the next line, what it says is we'll go into later. I just thought I'd pick that out from this section. Now, the purpose of generating renunciation. Okay, now we're getting into the main part of the thing. Without the complete intention, definitely to be free from the circling, there is no way to pacify attachment seeking pleasurable effects in the ocean of circling. Also, by craving for cyclic existence, embodied beings are continuously bound. Therefore, at the very beginning, you seek renunciation. This is describing a path of practice and how to proceed. It tells you quite precisely. So, if you don't want to see, okay, if any of you know anything about the 12-step program with AA, or how that works, the psychological principle of it, if someone has a strong addiction or something really wrong, what they have to do is at some point, they've got to get to the point where they say, I've got to stop. Because if I don't, it's awful. The results are everything won't work. They have to get to that point. If they don't, they can't stop. That's what's thought with that. They can't. It just won't. They won't have the desire. They've got to have the want to end it. So, what that's saying is those who are not attached to the pleasures without the intention to be free from the circling, you won't do any of these practices, the path of a spiritual path. There's no way to pacify the attachment, which always thinks the attachment is seeking pleasurable effects in the ocean of circling. Meaning, well, okay, let's look at this notion of happiness. I was going to give a talk on that website. I do put some teachings on about what that is. And most people, they want to get happiness. So what they do is, there was a monk who I know who wrote a book on this, Matthew Ricard. They look for things in order to make them happy, right? So maybe you join a political movement, and maybe that will get you off for a while, and then that will get, later it will become depressing, and then you make some new friends. Oh, hello. Do you want to sit on the chair or in the ground? Oh, you came prepared. Then you must be a friend of Tina because she told you to come. Why are you upset?
Huh?
Why are you looking? What, because she came late? What?
No. Just the whole seats thing.
Oh, this is nice. Everyone likes it.
Alright.
Okay. Give her one. We're on here. I don't know if this is better than doing what we did yesterday, Tina. Is this okay?
Oh, nice.
Good. This is a very, very special poem. There's lots, actually, if you have the internet, there's lots of commentaries to it. People explaining it, including Dalai Lama's given talks on this on his website. You can listen to them later because he likes this poem. Because it's short, but essential. Everything is included in here. Okay, so then they want to get some pleasurable effect. Now then they'll look for something else, and then they'll look for something else, and then they'll look for something else, but they haven't given up. Right? They keep wanting to go on. I'm sorry I didn't none of you introduced yourselves to me, but maybe we should do that later because I'm a very rude person. No, I am. You see the way I came in, I don't talk to anybody. I just like it when I sit up at the front and talk myself. You hear the sound of my own voice. Yeah. But you should talk later and tell me your names. I should tell you I told you a bit about me. Okay, so then, right, so then they will still think that they can find something else that's better always. Oh, maybe there's some hope over here, some hope there, right? That's what that's saying. So if you don't want If you want to pacify the attachments, you've got to have to stop looking in the wrong place. That's a problem with doing meditation practice. I did touch on it last night because the main point of it is in a way very simple, but people look in the wrong place because they haven't been instructed right. Then they look for a meditation practice that will work in the wrong place. They look for it in pleasurable sensations or blissful things, which are okay to some point. That's tranquility meditation, which is good. But that's only part of it. They don't want to look at the very boringness of just paying attention. Because it or altered states, and they don't see that that's important. Whereas the important thing with the most profound meditations is right in front of the person all the time, or not in front of them. It is them, but they're looking everywhere else, and that's the same with this. They're looking everywhere else to try and find it in the conditionings, right? And then they are conditioned. The way they are, their happiness, their suffering, their feeling of calm or of elation is from the conditions. They don't understand. They haven't yet experienced the inherent kind of joy that can be theirs. So let's say, something like that. The calmness inside themselves. They want to find it everywhere else. And then because of that, then they make more and more attachments, which again makes them more and more unhappy and more miserable. And then by looking for those things, they bind themselves up with ropes. The embodied beings are continuously bound. So at the beginning, you've got to begin seeking renunciation. Okay. Now, there's a specific way that this is done in this tradition, the Tibetan traditions usually, which is I'll just read this and then I'll go through it. Freedom and endowments are difficult to find, and life has no time to spare. By gaining familiarity with this, attraction to the appearances of this life are reversed, not is reversed. That's wrong, right? Grammatically, I think. By thinking over and over again, there's these two verses and then I'll explain them. That thinking over and over again that actions and their effects are unbetraying, and repeatedly contemplating the miseries of cyclic existence, attraction to the appearances of future lives is reversed. Okay. Should I read the next verse? No. Okay, now these two verses. What we've got here in the first one, verse 4, it's two sections. Freedoms and endowments are difficult to find, and life has no time to spare. These are two contemplations that one could do at some length. They're not, to contemplate them isn't quite like doing the meditation I showed you yesterday, because it's not non-conceptual. It's conceptual, and then you might alternate it with non-conceptual meditation. Freedoms and endowments refers to the notion that our present life, embodied existence, if one accepts rebirth or something like that, I guess we'll talk about that being in a human form, as we have now, is a very, very difficult thing, and not to take it lightly. It is very difficult to get again. And to have the freedom to hear, let's say, a talk like this or any other of this sort, and to inquire into things like this is not easy to get the right circumstances for that. It's very hard to find. And there's endowments. There's usually a list when someone wants to practice this contemplation of what those endowments are. Well, first of all, your senses are all present. Your mind works. You're in a place where you have some freedom to study these things. You're not in a place, part of a borderland, as they call it, when they write these things, where people take joy in killing each other, or you're not in a place where there's a war going on. where people don't have water to drink or anything, you have a good circumstance. So one should rejoice in that and contemplate the benefits of that and make a determination to try and use that, to its best advantage. And in a deeper sense, although this looks like a very simple teaching and not so profound, if someone takes this really to heart, it will be very easy for them to see, to get a profound realization and to become enlightened very quickly. Because this will cut attachments very easily. The more and more they take this in, it will make it very easy to do. That, I think, because the suffering and the constant cycle of again and again suffering isn't just something on a macro level that I'm describing, but it happens very minutely on a micro level in every moment when we're awake. Moment to moment, there's aversion and attachment constantly. And moment to moment, we make the decision. Now, we may not know. For that, you have to do that kind of meditation a lot. And then you see it moment to moment. We're constantly pushing things away that we don't like and going to things that we like. If we sit and we do meditation, then there's sounds that we're attracted to, that there's crazy thoughts we want to carry through on. There's thinking about what we're going to do tomorrow. There's when I'm going to come back here and what kinds of things I'll bring to where that young monk stays. Well, I'll bring them bread, maybe. And how many loaves I'll bring them that I'll get from this temple in Vancouver, and other things. Now, if we don't have much renunciation, we're not gonna get the point that those thoughts are boring. We're going to want them to go on and on and on, and they're going to become very, very fascinating for us. So you see, a lot of people who learn about these four thoughts think that this is a very elementary thing, and they want to learn the more profound meditations, maybe fancy ones. But actually, if you've got lots of attachment, you can't even sit down and calm your mind. Even on the most minute level, it'll be very difficult. Because you'll always be looking in the wrong place, you see. But if you if you start at least to get on some level bored with this stuff, that's constantly like, just learn to kind of leave it alone, it pacifies on its own. You don't need to stop it. Of course, I'm now talking about meditating. It pacifies on its own. That's what's called in Tibetan traditions, they call self-liberating. These defilements dissolve by themselves. But if someone doesn't have that kind of renunciation, then it's very difficult, even on the most minute level, to let them go, you see. So this is a deeper, deeper meaning of these four thoughts. Now, that's one thing. Now, life has no time to spare. That's the second contemplation of these four thoughts that are called in Tibetan Lo Dok Namshi, the four thoughts that turn the mind, that reverse the mind, or some translate it as turn the mind to Dharma. Life has no time to spare. That means that our bodies are impermanent and that they won't last forever and that death could be at any time. This is one of the oldest contemplations that comes from the time of the Buddha himself, that everyone does, including in Thailand and Burma too. It's a preliminary if you're going to do Vipassana. That means that death is like waiting for us all the time. It's like a sword above us. It could happen at any time and we don't know where. It could happen from eating bad food. It can happen from just getting imbalances. Many, many reasons. We don't know. That means don't waste time. Don't waste time. Don't waste time. Don't waste time. That again means all this junk comes up to confuse you and distract you if you're sitting. Don't waste time with it. Don't waste time seeking raw spiritual paths that will lead you nowhere. Don't waste time with maybe too much with this stuff about that I read again, the law of attraction. Using these things for self-aggrandizement. Make your mind calm so you can get more money and then visualize what you want, and then you'll make more dough. Or ask me, which is done, ask me for practices for gaining wealth, getting mantras to get more money so that you can, so you can survive maybe and lead your life sanely, but so that you can have more dough to get maybe who knows what, big cars and pollute and then make lots of trouble for everyone around you and just deviate and go off onto a side road again for another few years. Then you have no time to spare. By gaining familiarity with this, attraction to the appearances of this life is reversed. So what that's talking about is the one side of these four thoughts is to thinking that anything is going to get really hunky-dory. That maybe in a few years it will get better, and then everything's going to be perfect. Sorry, look. When I was in the 3-year retreat, sometimes we had a lot to do, and sometimes people disagreed with each other, and we couldn't go out, and nobody could come in, so sometimes people would get upset. Or lots of people have lots of defilements, They get nervous, they feel unhappy, right? Well, I'm saying we shouldn't do that. Maybe that's because we didn't contemplate the four thoughts enough. It'll take time. It's not going to happen in a day. Don't beat yourself up if you can't get it right away. But, we were all upset, and people were upset. And they went and told us that we brought this very old master teacher, Desheng Rinpoche, who was at that time probably close to 80. And he stayed with us for a few months in the retreat. He's very famous. There's a book of his biography called Saint in Seattle. Very beautiful to read, just to see his picture. It's very good. Now, and people went to him and said, we have disagreements. And then I've got lots of bad thoughts, and I have lots, I'm filled with I've got this and this, we ought to argue. And he said, so what's new? Ha ha ha. You think I got no defilements? You think I'm, what? Oh, really? Oh, well, yeah, that's kind of normal. I got him too. He'd always fight with his brother, like I fight with that small monk. He didn't want to wear his robes right. I want to get him to wear it right. He would fight with his brother, would come there, and they'd fight with each other constantly. Always, and his brother would make fun of him. See, Desheng Rinpoche had to be in a wheelchair because when he got one of his knees fixed, he didn't go back for the surgery to take the pins out because the doctor died after the surgery had been done. So when he was 55, he had this done. So then he ended up, later on, he couldn't, walk properly. He was hobbled. So if he wanted to go any long distances, he would go in a wheelchair. So his brother was a Tibetan doctor and had to go with him. They'd always be fighting. So then he told us, hey, that's the way it is. So if we think that we're going to find some perfect state where everything will just be right, that's kind of hard. And maybe we'll attract it. If we meditate, then we'll become all youthful, and then we'll be surrounded by nice people all the time, and everything's going to be perfect. It could be like that, actually, but we're going about that the wrong way. We could, in a way, have some of that if we don't try and get it. Maybe, actually, it could be naturally present. Maybe not in that way, not in the ego-clinging way, the way we want it. We've got to stop trying, from the ego attachment way of doing things. So, we've got no time to spare. Attraction to the appearances of this life is reversed. Now, and there's the next two topics. These are discussed in many other tomes and books where I could discuss them at length. You have a book on this now, that commentary, and you have another thick book on it, The Words of My Perfect Teacher. The actions and their effects are unbetraying. So that means that's talking about that there's actions and they bring about their results. And so one needs to contemplate that and what the results are of actions. And then start to learn to be very careful with what we do. Very careful with what we do. Meaning, that has many meanings just in the most simple level, the most simple baby level, don't do them, of course. But on the more profound level, to train oneself that one would naturally not do them because the ethics becomes part of you. You're not bound by rules, you are them. That you don't want to do them, that's deeper. And then even further, whatever ethical, or what we call sila, as you know, pancha sila, is not just a ethical conduct like not killing, not stealing, training yourself not to do those things, not to harm others, not to lie, are also the way in which someone who's had success at spiritual methods, the way they behave, the way a Buddha behaves is by those things. They are not rules that someone will punish you. They are also the way in which someone who has attained success or who has overcome the foe of evil clean, it's the way they behave. And also, of course, we don't say that there's someone who's going to punish you, but that what we call typically bad actions, what people normally call bad actions, will bring about results. And it's quite unforgiving. Not because someone will punish you, but because it brings about results. You have to go.
I'm sorry. to
Am I talking too long, or how long have we gone for?
Not that long, but I have to just be somewhere else.
Oh, are you going to come back later to get Tina? How's she going to go home?
I'm not sure where she's staying tonight, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
She has other places to go.
Okay, good, good.
Thank you for
You're welcome, you're welcome.
Sorry, I have to rush around. And thank you for these.
Yes. Good.
Yeah. Thanks again. And,
Yes.
this is all getting recorded, right?
There.
Okay.
I could send it here, but I don't know about, well, there is one place that will download it. But I don't know how easy it will be to get it from her, but I can keep it. And I can make it available to you. Okay. Maybe. Yeah, that would be good. Okay, so we know about that. Actions and their effects are unbetraying. So if you do things that are unskillful, there will be results. There is no way out around it. No one's going to forgive you for it, is what I mean too. Not nice. I mean, you're going to do it, you're going to experience it. No one's there to tell you, going to punish you. You create it yourself. So that in a way, of course, someone who has bad circumstances, sometimes someone will tell them, that may be because of the past, something that you've done. Although, it's not good. That doesn't mean it's good or that we want it for them, or that the pain is good, but they understand that. Like the Japanese people, the Buddhist ones, they have an organization of temples across the country, which is small. When the Canadian government wanted to, people force them or bother them a lot to give them money for what they did after World War II, the Buddhist churches of Canada didn't get the Buddhist, this organization of one lineage of Buddhism that has been here 100 years ago. Actually, some of their temples were stolen that's basically what was done. They were taken by the Canadian government and turned into whatever, and they weren't given back. They took temples and stole them. They didn't even ask for money, and they didn't get involved with these things. This was mostly Christian people, because Christian Japanese people, but the Buddhists didn't want to, because they told me why. They didn't get involved with it. They said, we think that this is a result of what must have been because of what happened before. What is money going to do to solve it anyway? That was a situation that came to us because of what happened and something from our past, and then that's it. I guess they would have wanted an apology, but they didn't go after getting the dough, and they didn't participate too much in getting a share. They could have gotten it. The Buddhist churches of Canada could have gotten a share of the money. They didn't even try. They didn't want to be part of that, and they didn't. if we have some bad circumstances, that is also partly because of things that we've done. So we have to take, to use the psychological lingo, take responsibility. Okay, but anyway, the important thing is then we have to be careful about what we do, because what we do is going to make could make problems later. Everything, constantly, all time. Then we repeatedly contemplate the miseries of cyclic existence. That is, that again and again, the different states of psychic existence, that all of the, we look at it from the bad side, as it were. Well, I don't know if there's so much, there are temporary pleasures, but not many. And in the end, psychic existence is not, in the deepest sense, is not a place, it's a state of mind. And that state of mind creates the suffering. So it's not like, it's about transforming one's view. And that will end it. Okay, so if we contemplate those two things, attraction to the appearances of future lives is reversed. So, now how do you know you've generated renunciation? Then, when you train like this, there is no arising for even a second of attraction to the perfections of cyclic existence. And all day and night, the intention seeking liberation arises, then the thought of renunciation has been generated. Can I go to your washroom for a sec? And do you want to push the pause button?